This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, this is going to be the last show we do.
Having a historic show.
Before OTAs.
Right. It's the end of the phase one of the YouTube era, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on here.
We've been YouTubing pretty consistently here now for the last, 6 to 8 months, Tyler?
Yeah.
Since August, yeah.
Next time we get together with Tyler, he's going to be a daddy. We got all kinds of stuff going on, right?
Not as much as him.
right. Just wait, dude.
But yeah, so today is our final session on YouTube. You can still check those shows out. They're all backlogged there, and you can.
Oh yeah, they all hold up. Yeah.
But
I'm psyched to get down to OTAs next week too, and
absolutely
not be in studio, be outside, see some people running around.
So with that in mind, Matt, I want to talk about what we want to see over the next 3 weeks.
Okay. My big thing right off the bat is and that's preliminary scouting. I mean, I know who these guys are, but body typing. I mean, that's just for me. What does DK Metcalf look like? I mean, I bet it's impressive. What does Black look like? What does Harmon look like? I mean, some of these dudes that are, I've seen their height, weight, speed, and all that stuff, and running around the combine. So that's kind of the first thing. They look the part, and I don't know next, to be honest. I mean, I would love. We talked about the receiver yesterday. That someone that's not a draft pick to make a few plays. Just be on the tip of people's tongues. Or unsolicited names come up. That's a big training camp thing. Jalen Warren's the best example I could remember. Like 2 or 3 days into training camp, everyone's like, "Man, Jalen Warren's pretty good." Undrafted free agent, and that stuff starts to happen now too.
Yeah. It's tough for the receivers in that regard because they're not getting hit.
Right.
They know they're not getting hit. I mean, I've seen guys over the years, and there have been guys who have been I used to refer to Jaheen Arnold as, Mr.
He's perfect for that.
Mr. June.
Yeah.
Because he would catch everything.
Yeah.
And then
it's 7-on-7. It's routes
right
there, and right. Yeah. And people might not remember Arnold, but he was
really fast and
little, thin. Right. Perfect for this time of year.
With that said, I want to see Roman Wilson on the field.
Ooh, good one. Yeah.
And I want to see him take some steps.
Maybe even like running with the ones or shortly behind, or really looking like kind of a veteran and not like one of the rookies out there like not knowing where to be and things like that.
If Roman Wilson in his second year, he didn't do anything last year, but if he can have a Calvin Austin like what Calvin Austin did last year.
Yeah, we're not asking him to be Malik Neighbors.
No, I'm not asking for him to go out and get 70 catches or anything like that. But if he can get 36 or 500 yards, that goes a long way.
Consistent contributor. Yeah, I think he's I'm sure we'll do this between now and camp too. Like, who are some of the wild cards on this team? Who are some of the X factors? He comes to mind immediately. Like if he has a nice year, that has a lot of ramifications. Especially if they don't add another receiver, which I don't think is going to be the issue. But man, all of a sudden, it's like him and Austin are both really capable threes. It's like, all right, I see something here, and maybe even the year after that, he's running with the ones. I don't know,
Yeah, you want to see those guys take. We've seen Calvin Austin take those steps.
Absolutely.
To the point now where I'm like, okay.
And he had an injury or two early on that slowed progress,
But he had over 500 receiving yards last year.
Yeah.
He was
had a nice year.
Not a throwaway player at all.
No, he had a nice year.
And was good in the return game and did everything that you want him to do. Now can Roman Wilson, who was actually drafted earlier than Calvin Austin.
Right, he's a third-round pick.
He's a third-round pick. Right. Austin was a fourth-round pick.
In a deep receiver draft.
A late fourth-round pick.
Yeah. Wilson might have won the end of second in this draft.
Yeah.
I mean, way earlier.
We talked about it, his, at the combine, where his grade from last year would have gotten him into this year's draft, according to Lance Zierlein's grade. I mean, he was a 6.3. There were guys,
that may be like if you don't make the Metcalf trade, that's about where he might have gone.
Yeah.
In the middle of the second round.
And that 6.3 by Lance Zierlein's grading system will eventually be a plus starter.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably like a Knoll or someone like that from this class. Right.
Right.
I think that's a logical expectation for him. Everyone just think he's out of sight, out of mind. He's a bust.
Oh, he's a bust. He didn't do anything. They're mad at him.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's one of the guys. I think they really want to see him on the football field.
Yeah.
And then make their judgments about what they need at the wide receiver position.
Because I do think he's mostly slot. But we've had a lot of talk about in-breaking routes, throwing between the numbers. Arthur Smith, that's more his style than we saw, and his quarterbacks were part of that issue. You have to adapt to the ingredients you get as a new coordinator. Wilson, if you go back to his Michigan tape, a lot of first downs going over the middle, in breakers, deep in cuts, things like that. A lot for first downs, often out of the slot. I'm sure that's what they envisioned when they took him. Yeah,
I mean, he was a tough guy, and he's not tiny. He's 5'11", 185.
He's not Gene Arnold.
Yeah, he's not Gene Arnold.
Right.
Essentially, he's the same size, and I'm not saying he's Antonio Brown, but he's the same size as Antonio Brown.
Right.
Give or take.
Who could go inside, outside, make plays all over the field. He's not too small to ride the ride.
Right, he's not one of these 5'9", 175-pound guys.
And he'll block, and he was a Harbaugh national champion, third-round pick. Contributor.
Oh, by the way, at the combine, he ran a 4.39.
It was really good. The Senior Bowl,
1.52, 10-yard split. I mean, he's fast.
Let's not forget about him. Right?
This guy is a good football player. He just couldn't get on the field last year because of the injuries. And people, why could he came back? Why didn't they play him? He missed all of training camp.
Yeah.
All of it.
I mean, there wasn't a body of work to even jump off of.
No.
Right.
There was nothing, and there's nothing worse for coaches. There's nothing worse for quarterbacks than to have a wide receiver out there who might not know what he's doing.
Not sort of know what he's doing.
Especially in important games.
Yeah,
you're talking about him coming back down the stretch and it's like, well, just put him out there and see what he can do. These are important games. I don't want to see what can
they were against top competition or a playoff game or I
don't want to see if he knows what he's doing. I want him to know what he's doing, and I want to be able to trust that he knows where he's supposed to be at, because if he's not, if he runs that what's supposed to be a 12-yard out and he runs it 8 yards out and it turns into an interception.
Yeah, folks, January and December in the NFL aren't for testing. Throw them out there and see how it works.
Unless you're completely out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or then it's perfect time.
Right.
Or all your linebackers are hurt and you got to call somebody off the couch like they did 2 years ago. That's all you got. It's not a great time to, I think he knows what he's doing, but we're not sure. No, let's put Scotty Miller out there. And to your point, a lot of it's just the fine-tuned stuff. Like a lot of these route adjustments on the fly. You got to read coverage as you're running your route. Or if you round it off just a little and the ball needs to be here, but it's here, and that's an interception. It's just it's a very precise position.
Roman Wilson's last year at Michigan. Now, mind you, they didn't throw the football very much.
No. That was a knock on McCarthy.
That was the thing with McCarthy. But 48 catches, 789 yards. That's 16.4 yards per catch. 12 touchdowns.
It was him and Loveland were the whole passing.
He was the co-offensive skill player of the year for the national champions.
Yeah. Great, yeah. And there's no reason – I know people probably do have a different opinion of him now than the day he was drafted.
Yes.
It has been over a year. Of course.
He's been out of sight, out of mind. Not really out of mind because everybody's talked about him. When's he going to get out there?
Yeah. But I don't think you should have a very much different opinion at all. All you guys that were super excited to watch him on Saturdays – Wolverines, watching the playoffs. Steelers got him in the third round. All right. I don't think he's any different,
No. In fact, he actually is going into this in a better situation than he did a year ago.
Well, at least
he's been there. He's been through all the meetings. He knows the offense.
He should have no mental errors.
Shouldn't.
Yeah. All right. That would be inexcusable. Right.
So that's one that I'm certainly going to be watching.
It's a good one.
I don't know if TJ Watt shows up for these, for example.
I don't even care.
I don't care either.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't bother me, and well, he's got to be there. These are, first of all, these are voluntary sessions.
They're not getting fined. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like he's sitting around eating chips and bonbons,
Right. You trust the player to be in shape and ready to go.
I think it's pretty safe that he'll be fine in that.
Troy
regard.
Polamalu never came to these things.
Right.
The 1 year he did, it was noteworthy because they were breaking in a new safety next to him.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that,
Troy, his own thing, right?
Troy, you're going to go off and climb mountains and do all that
enjoy
stuff.
Your time, right.
Ben Roethlisberger didn't show up at these all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of sporadic. It's not a big deal if these guys don't show up. Now, it will be reported as being a big deal.
Right.
But if you remember last year, Cam Hayward skipped he had stuff going on and missed the first week of OTAs.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, didn't seem to affect his season at all.
Times have changed, and these are all magnified too much. I mean, and we're going to be down there, and we're going to be guilty of it too.
Right.
I mean, of course. But, I mean, I remember you telling stories, Cowher would kind of be in and out. He's the head coach of the team.
Those first, I can remember when they first started doing these things, and they had the upper deck over top of the field that overlooks. It's a 2-story building, so they get the deck up there that overlooks the fields. And Cowher would, if he was there, would stand up on the deck,
observe
and observe like he was a college coach, like a college coach up on top of the.
Yeah.
And that's
like Bear Bryant up on the the podium things, right?
Yeah,
right.
And just overseeing practice, watching. Okay.
They do record all this. You can watch the tape. Right? Yeah.
But you're trusting your coaches. That's what this is for. Your coaches are the ones doing the real work on the field.
That's a great way of putting it. This is more of a position coach thing than a coordinator, play caller.
Right.
Right. Can I get this guy to go through individuals well enough that I don't have to make him do it again at camp?
Yeah. The idea of this is to get them ready. You've got your 9 practices here.
Yeah.
Including minicamp, to get these guys ready so when you go to training camp, you can run fast practices.
You can take the training wheels off.
Yeah. Everything. Okay, now we're going. This is the real stuff now.
Right. Because this is for real. You're trying to make the team. I mean, this is step 1. And guys will do everything they can to impress. And, of course, they'll work hard. But it's more just like, can you operate practice at the tempo we want? That's a big thing too. We're not 100% knocking everyone's head off every time, and we're also not just walking every time. There's a tempo to it. This is how the Pittsburgh Steelers practice. And when we break off into individuals, I don't have to teach you the sled drill again. That kind of stuff.
I'm not stopping the drill to get you to do it the right way.
I've been always explaining this is kindergarten.
Yeah.
It's the ABCs.
Which is why they first hold the rookie mini camp to give those young guys their first taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've had a couple of weeks off. Do they retain that?
Yeah, right. And to your point, TJ Watt doesn't need the training.
He doesn't. No. No, he can pretty much hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. Right.
We'll see what happens with the quarterback position.
Sure.
And the thing
I'm excited to see Howard throw the ball live though.
The thing with Watt, to me, is you still have a couple of young pass rushers on this team. If he's not there, that means they get more reps.
And it's more for everybody else, too. I mean, and there's a trickle-down effect, too. Like, if Cam is here, which I assume he will be, he doesn't – I mean, they're going to have the rookies do it more than him.
Right.
I mean, even Benton and those guys, Liao. I mean, guys that were injured last year, too. I mean, Lee. I mean, those guys are going to be ones getting the reps here much more than Cameron Hayward.
Right. Right. But we'll see what happens at the quarterback position.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we'll get news. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we get news before next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get news on a certain quarterback signing, I would still expect it comes in the next 2 weeks. I would expect that he who shall not be named will be here for the mandatory minicamp.
Be a good – deadline's a terrible word, but that'd be a good over-under, timeline. Yeah. Fine. And then 2 months from now, we won't be talking about it again.
Right.
Yeah. He's the guy.
Because right now he's missed nothing.
Nothing.
Right, everybody's been panicking about this all offseason.
He wouldn't have been down there for the draft.
We've talked about it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I've been guilty of that at times as well. But he's still missed nothing to this point.
He can lift weights elsewhere. He can train elsewhere.
These are guys, if you've been in the league 5 or more years, even 3 or more years, you know what you need to do to get your body ready.
Let alone if you're a Hall of Fame quarterback. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure he has personal trainers like crazy and nutritionists and all those things too. They're maybe even better. I mean,
Yeah,
he's going to use them anyway.
He's not sitting around eating Cheetos. And,
No, right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's a good barometer, though. The next 2 weeks.
And I don't even care, honestly, if he misses if he misses these 2 weeks of OTAs. They get a young quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, really two between Skylar Thompson and Howard that need reps.
So
Mason Rudolph needs reps in this offense.
I don't have the Steelers playbook. I don't know their verbiage.
Yeah.
I never will. I never should. Now, I'm sure there's people like, well, doesn't he need to learn the offense? Yeah, I'm sure there's some stuff he needs to learn.
When he gets here, he's going to take every rep.
But I urge everyone to look at Arthur Smith's history. Arthur Smith was a position coach with the Titans, and LaFleur was their offensive coordinator.
Right.
And did a tremendous job.
Yeah.
Gets the head coaching job with the Packers.
Actually wanted to hire Arthur Smith and
Wanted
take him
to bring
with
him with him.
Yeah.
You know, I really want this guy. Vrabel's like, you're not
No.
taking that guy. Right.
Yeah.
And he promotes him to offensive coordinator, which is a massive jump. And where I'm going with this is we can do more of the Arthur Smith history, but Rodgers, coincidentally or not, was in Green Bay when LaFleur got hired with the system that is being in place here. And him and LaFleur worked some things out that first year. They drafted Jordan Love, and Rodgers then really, really bought into the LaFleur system and won MVPs. And he knows the system, guy. I mean, he knows how it works.
Not,
right.
You know, this is not him learning Chinese.
When Smith got here last year, everybody had to learn the system.
Right.
That was new. Rodgers has done this.
Yeah.
It's the same verbiage, the same language. Maybe there's a different dialect now, but it's the same language. It's French, it's German, whatever.
Yeah, it's just speaking one version of French versus
and he knows it extremely well.
Yeah, or Spanish, and what they speak in the Italian, or I can't think of it. What they speak in Barcelona is not the same as what they speak in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's all Spanish.
It's all Spanish. Right. And he knows it well and excelled in it. And that's what they ran with the Jets too.
Right.
It was a Packers group.
Yeah. So, anyways, that'll be some things we're keeping an eye on next week. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio here on the Steelers Audio Network. We will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, looking here on NFL.com, and they have Tom Blair has put together a list of the most underappreciated NFL players, top candidate on each AFC team entering the 2025 season. And I wanted to jump down to the Steelers on here because the guy that he picked as their most underappreciated player is most certainly not underappreciated by Steeler fans.
Okay. Who might that be?
Jaylen Warren.
Good one. Yeah, I think he still might be a little underappreciated. I mean, the numbers he put up 2 years ago when he was healthy the whole time through was top 2 or 3 in the league as a receiving back.
We were talking at that point, though, that year, I can remember on our show, we're talking about he and Najee Harris being a top 3 duo in the league. Right there with Montgomery and Gibbs.
So they were the other ones that were super high.
I mean, if you looked at the total yardage of that group, they were right there with a lot of those.
Absolutely. He's good in protection. He's a force in the passing game, and I think he can be an every down player. I'm not kicking dirt on Najee at the door. I think Warren, and I have for some time, is a better football player than Harris. I think they're very different, and they were really good complements to one another. And I don't know that one could do what the other does, in terms of the pounding that Najee took every year, every game he was here. I don't want that to be the case for Warren. And the drafting of Johnson implies the Steelers don't either. But I think he's one of their absolute, and he has been since he's been in the Steeler uniform, one of their best skill guys for 3 years in a row now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really good football player.
He is a very good football player. And I think, sometimes that gets lost in the wash to a degree. But not. I think he is very appreciated by Steeler fans.
Probably. Probably more so than national. Yes.
If I were picking a guy who's underappreciated by Steeler fans, I might pick Alex Highsmith.
That's a good one.
Because I think we saw this a lot last year. Why don't they just trade Highsmith and get a pick for him and start Herbig
and all that? Right.
Highsmith's a really good player.
He's a really good player. I mean, he's a top 20 edge guy for sure.
Yeah, might even be top 15.
Yeah, I didn't want to be ttoo kind and start rattling off names.
Right.
But, I mean, he's consistent as well. He's physical. He's a perfect fit for the system. And unfortunately, he's Robin, because Batman's really good, And I love Herbig, but Herbig can't do what Highsmith does either, which is a big reason Sawyer's here. Right. They see all this.
Anybody else you would put on that list?
I thought the choice was going to be Elliott. And I do, and I
would have been a good one,
especially the way you preface it, because Steeler fans aren't short on this guy, because I think everyone listening knows the contributor Elliott is. But I thought that was going to be the pick. Darnell Washington, because he's so hard to play against, and he's a unicorn in this league, and the Steelers use him really, really well, and it's boring. Oh, they run the ball a lot, and he plays a lot of double tight ends. Nobody likes playing against that guy.
If you've got that guy, that's why you do it.
And he's not just a tackle wearing a tight end number. He can do a lot in the receiving game, or enough to keep you honest. I think he's a force, offensive coordinator. Not every offensive coordinators, but there's a lot of them out there going, man, I'd love to find somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one for me.
But I think, when you look at this roster, they've got several guys that would fit the bill in that.
Mm-hmm. I hope an Eccles is the guy we mentioned next year. You know, I mean, some of the new guys I don't want to mention that aren't returning Steelers.
Yeah, I think to a degree, Joey Porter Jr. is underappreciated.
Okay,
and in some ways underappreciated by Steeler fans. I don't know if they know how difficult.
What's asked of him?
What is asked of him? How difficult it is, and anytime I mention him, immediately there's a lot of on the message boards or wherever. If I write about, what about all the penalties? If you look at the penalties last year,
they're not extreme.
It was all in 4 games, and it's not that he had 12 accepted against him. Yes, there were 17, but 12 accepted.
But the other guys that are high are also the other good corners that has to cover.
For example, both Jets guys, Reed and Gardner, they both had 9 penalties last year each.
Okay.
And neither one of them played. They both missed at least 3 games.
And they don't change sides.
They don't change sides. They don't follow.
Mm-hmm.
If you play a lot of man defense in the NFL, you're going to get penalized.
Yeah, Steelers play more man than Jets too.
Yeah,
those guys will play off, and so
if you're playing a lot of zone and you're just reading and reacting and going up and tackling the catch, you're not going to get a lot of penalties. But if you're up in somebody's face, you're probably going to get some penalties.
Today's NFL in particular, I don't think I'd get much argument. I think Patrick Surtain's the best corner in the league.
Right.
But even just watch him against Pickens early in the season. He's grabby, and there's flags coming out, and it's a tough assignment.
The funny thing about that is that people will look at that game. Well, he held Pickens to, I can't remember 3 catches for 40 yards or whatever.
Well, that was a stat line.
But
they moved the football a lot more when they went his way.
He got penalized 3 times in the game.
All the hidden yardage was 100-yard game.
He should have given up the long catch to Pickens that was erased by a very questionable holding call on Broderick Jones.
Yes.
That I saw it on tape. You saw it on tape. Everybody saw it happen. But, Patrick Surtain, he had a really good game. No, he didn't.
He really didn't. He would be my first pick in a corner draft without question. But Pickens was the better player one-on-one that day.
Cornerback, to me, is the hardest job in the NFL. Because all the rules are lined up. Everything is against you.
We want points. Yeah,
everything is against you. You can't touch this guy. You can't do this. You can't. And he can push off, and he can do whatever. That never gets called. Very rarely. And if the cornerback breathes on the guy, he's getting the call.
And there aren't many man coverage corners out there.
There really aren't.
It's a real shortage, and fewer than I can remember. The only rule, and I think we brought up last week, that is working in their favor is someone catches a ball in the air and you can just drive them out of bounds. That's like the only thing that's gone their way in the rule books in 10 years.
Yeah.
So no, he's a good one just because of the assignments.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have to have 6 picks to be highly appreciated. You know,
there were people like I've gotten this a lot too. A lot of pushback on it. Oh, he wasn't as good last year as he was his rookie year. I'm like,
I think what happens was
he gave up his passer rating against last year was like 77.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
I think he didn't play a ton the first couple games his rookie year, and then it was big news. Hey, I went to coach and I want to follow ones. You know, I don't know how much. Some of that might be folklore too. You know, whatever. And all of a sudden he's following Devontae Adams around and all that. So everyone I think went, "Whoa, we got the next Rod Woodson here.
Yeah.
You know, we got the next Mel Blount." And the next year he wasn't the best corner in the league, so they think it's a step backwards. Like that's kind of unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know.
I think any team in the league would be happy to have him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's the type of guy I think you could trade for, one of the few guys you could trade for like a first-round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, like, more than happy to have him. Like, would give a lot up, and when it comes time to pay him, a lot of listeners will understand the value.
Yeah.
You know?
And actually, in some ways, I thought he was better last year. I'm not saying he was made giant steps in terms of coverage and that kind of stuff, and the penalties happened.
Oh, yeah.
But he was a much better tackler
I was going to
last
say
year
that, too, yeah.
than he had been his rookie year. That was the one thing I looked at him, well, he's a little iffy on the tackling stuff. He was much better at that last year.
Much better. And I never thought effort as a tackler was a problem for him, but his posture as a tackler and his balance wasn't as good, and learning in the NFL to do that's difficult. I mean, I urge people to pull up some of his Penn State scouting reports, too. They never threw at him.
Nobody threw at him.
I mean, it was like the first couple games they threw at him, and then like the last 8 or 9 games at Penn State,
he saw like 15 passes.
Yeah, he'd get like a target or 2 a game, and
Yeah.
you know, probably just push someone out of bounds. You know, and he didn't have to do much. You know, so then you got to learn the NFL. And to his credit, he definitely put work in to become a better tackler.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not going to be Woodson. He's not going to be a killer. You know, but he's adequate now, you know, where it was a problem before.
Oh, yeah, it was something that was certainly he needed to work on, and he obviously did. Mm-hmm. Now, I think this year, and I wrote about this today in my 5 for Friday on Steelers.com. I urge you to check it out. Adding Darius Slay opposite him, I think, can pay some big dividends. I think Slay is a more capable man cover corner than what they've had the last 2 years.
Including Peterson. That version of Peterson.
Yeah, that version of Peterson was a zone corner.
He was. And he was with the Vikings the year before, too. And he had a bunch of picks, but it was in zone.
Yeah.
Jackson always has been. And I think Jackson limited them a lot from that capacity.
But I think with that cornerback duo, they can now play more man.
I hope they do. I hope they blitz more. I hope they have more of an aggressive mindset and leaving these guys on islands with Minka over the top. And that's part of the reason why I wish there was one more, because I don't want to lose that if either of them get dinged up. And maybe that's Trice, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
But those guys don't grow on trees either. It's like, I want another offensive tackle too, but they're hard to find.
Yeah.
I got one other name too.
Okay.
Everyone knows Killebrew's a good special teamer. Everyone listening knows that.
Right.
He's been here long enough. He's blocked kicks. I don't know if everyone knows that he's like maybe the best. You know, like one of the top 3 or 4, and I don't watch special teams tape. That's reputation. That's Pro Bowls, things like that. Like, that's
teams, when you step onto the field, they're saying, okay, we got to designate 2 guys for that guy, because if we don't, he's going to wreck the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that opens things up. Like, he didn't block a kick last year, but they blocked 3 kicks in 3 games.
But Danny knows that he's getting attention.
Because he's getting the attention, and that frees other guys up for one-on-one matchups, or 2 guys go to Killebrew and nobody blocks Jeremiah Moon.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing, right? Everyone has all 32 teams have their best special teamer. Okay, and he is the Steelers' best special teamer. But he'd be the best special teamer on 28 of the teams.
Yeah.
You know, and
he's really good.
Really good at it, right.
Really good, really smart, understands it.
That's what I say, too, is even
accepts it. That's the big part of the special teams stuff.
That's who he is, right.
You know who you are. That's why he's their special teams captain. Mm-hmm. And he was a pretty highly drafted guy. He was like a second-round draft pick.
I liked him coming out of school.
Yeah.
And I mean, he tested well, and, you know, right. He was not
it's almost a Darius Hayward Bay type thing. Safeties don't typically get drafted that high.
Right. He was drafted like a starter.
Yeah.
Right.
And, that hasn't worked out for him, but he's become as you said, one of the best special teams guys in the league. And you can play a long time doing that.
And he's gonna. And he has.
Yeah,
Right.
and
he's
he
making a
has.
very nice living and been and if the Steelers couldn't afford him or whatever,
Somebody else would
heartbeat.
Somebody else would sign him immediately. That's one of the things when they signed Derek Watt. And they just did that because he's TJ's brother. No, they did that because he's one of the best special teams players
too. So
in
was
the league.
Matakevich.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
You had to look at him like he was Tyler Matakevich.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had that stint too, where they were amongst the best.
Yeah.
And Killebrew's had it for a while now.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy job to do.
No.
Especially if once you get that target on you that everybody knows this is the guy, you're going to get doubled all the time.
And I was going to expand
teams
what
are going to kick
said.
Away from you.
Right. I mean, like you said, we used like the Watt example, or they're going to kick away from you, or they're going to double you when you run down on kickoffs because he's hard to block with one. But you mentioned it, but he also helps sets the protections and punt and all those type of things too that aren't easy. There's a lot of phases of special teams.
You're actually that guy is really an assistant coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one out there making the decisions when the ball is being snapped.
Right.
That's sitting there. That's spending a lot of time with your special teams coach and going over scenarios.
Yeah.
Well, if this happens, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. What's our check?
And then you got to make that decision, a snap decision in a millisecond
with less practice time than the other phases.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So that stuff's really important.
Well, I don't know about less practice.
They practice quite a bit.
Practice quite a bit. Special teams.
They do. But I mean, it's.
But it's all the different phases. That's the issue.
4 versions of it. Right.
Yeah. So that's you do 2 special team sessions per practice, but you can only work on so many
We're
things.
We're going to do punt for this session. The next session we'll do kickoff return or whatever. Right.
Yeah. Now we're doing kickoff coverage. Now we're doing.
Yeah.
It's just
and he's
a lot
leading
involved.
it all.
Yeah, and you got to retain it and then be able to communicate it to the other 10 guys that are out there with you on the field.
Who are always. I always joke about this. I mean, it's just a
revolving
revolving
they're
door.
always changing.
It's not the same 10 all the time. Danny loses starters all the time. I mean, I have 11 starters here on my punt team, and you just cut one because we need a guard. That was a starter for me, man.
Really, if you look at it, a guy like Killebrew, a guy like Darius Hayward Bay, who they've had, these guys, Watt. They're really the quarterback of the special teams unit.
Right. I mean, they are
they're a communication hub.
Communication is really, really important, right? And it's just easy to overlook.
Yeah.
You
don't see many Miles Killebrew jerseys in the stadium.
No.
On Sundays, but he's pretty damn important.
Right, and he carries a weight in the locker room too. He's been here for a while. Everyone knows his contributions, and you can throw him out on defense if you have to, because you know he's gonna be active on game day.
Yeah, right. Right. Anyways, let's get to another break. It was a nice little conversation.
Yeah.
I like that. Anyways, we're going to take a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network, Steelers Nation Radio. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, on the message board on YouTube yesterday, somebody brought up, we were talking about, somebody asked about Rob Woodson.
Mm-hmm. When he left the team. Right?
Yeah. And somebody mentioned that, Tom Donahoe, the GM. And I'm like, wait a second. Tom Donahoe wasn't the GM.
Oh.
He was director of football operations.
Okay.
From 1991 to 1999.
Okay.
He had been with the team before that as a scout in the scouting department and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. They didn't, and so I said, they have never had a GM until Kevin Colbert.
I remember when
that was halfway through his tenure.
Right.
When he got the title of GM. And I said today,
There's kind of a weird story of why he.
Yeah, I said on the message board, I'll explain why that happened today.
Okay.
In reality, the director of football operations was the de facto GM. Mm-hmm. They ran out everything with the football, the scouting,
right.
all that stuff. They help make the draft picks, all that stuff.
Which is kind of a weird term because, I was director of football ops at Akron.
Right.
But I basically did everything that wasn't football. But I did watch recruits. I did that part of things too. But it was not. I didn't do a lot of football stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
So around, I think it was 2010, Kevin Colbert had been the Steelers' director of football operations for 20 years.
Yeah.
He had been doing this a long time. But when he went out on scouting trips, he would get put in the stands
with the other area scouts.
The GMs would all be put in the press box.
The good spot, right.
Even if this guy'd been a GM for 3 months. You know, he's 28 years old. This is the first time he's ever been a GM.
The Bama SID just looks at his title.
They just look at the title and say, "Oh, we're going to put the scouts. The area scouts are out there.
We only have so much room.
Yeah, the GMs get the good spots." So Colbert went to Art Rooney II and said, "Hey, throw me a bone here. I'm getting kind of jerked around here because I don't have the GM title,
and I've been on my second year doing this job."
And so Art said, "You know what? I agree. That makes sense. Let's call it what it is. We're going to call you the GM."
But it also brings me to the current GM. Like Omar does things, from what I understand, a lot different than Kevin, a lot different than Donahoe, and certainly has a different background. You know, he was not an area scout grinding tape and measuring hands and all that kind of stuff too.
Now he's always been involved in that part of it.
Right.
But no,
that's why Weidl's there.
That's why they got Andy Weidl.
Right. I mean, everyone, every team's front office, and that's even a broad term because front office could mean ticket guy too.
Right.
I mean, it is constructed very differently, you know, and their backgrounds are very different, you know.
Yeah. But that director of football operations position, I think at this point now, every team does have a GM.
I think they call him that.
So there's somebody that they have that has that title.
But I also think, looking back at it, and I wasn't as involved, that Donahoe and Colbert were more directors of football operations.
Yes. They did the same job.
Where Omar manages generally.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He might be involved in travel a little bit. And,
right now, you could look at this and say, really, Weidl is the director of football operations.
Yeah, right.
Part of it.
The part of it. Right. He's the head scout, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
And then everything else Omar does.
Yeah. Because general manager,
he's still involved with the scouting part.
Of course.
Stuff.
I mean, he's very much in the decision-making side of that thing, too. But it's part of it's just semantics, but I mean it's an interesting story and why they're called what they are.
The other thing about this whole thing is that unlike some other general managers around the league, I always see this put out there that Tomlin's going to have to answer to Omar Khan for this. It's not how this works.
No, right. I mean, in terms of chain of command, it's not.
It's a pyramid. Art Rooney II is at the top of it. And the next two guys down, the two capos, or whatever you want to call them, if we're putting together the mafia list here, are Tomlin and Omar, and they're equal.
Right.
Yeah.
And they each have a say in things, and they each have different responsibilities.
Yeah.
But
they all talk about things, and then they come to that agreement on stuff.
And there's a lot of teams that's not true.
Right.
Head coach is Belichick was more in charge than anybody, you know, or whoever.
Whoever the GM, in a lot of places, the GM has the ability to fire the head coach.
Yes, and has
that is not the case here.
Right, and final say on the 53 and who they're going to take in the third round, and do they sign this guy or not? It comes down to that general manager's decision. That's not how it works.
That's not how it works. It's a three-person triumvirate making the decision.
Right, but the final say in the end, if it comes down to it,
the guy who gets the final say is the guy who's at the top of the pyramid.
Right.
And it's been that way for a very long time.
For a very long time. This isn't a new construction either.
No.
Right.
And it's largely worked, I mean, over the years. But that's one of the reasons why Tom Donahoe was fired in 1999.
And, folks, all 32 teams, if the owner wants final decision, the owner makes the final decision. You know,
right.
I don't think Shedeur Sanders ended up in Cleveland because I think there's one reason he ended up in Cleveland, because the owner wanted him. Same reason Manziel ended up in Cleveland, you know.
But there's also
we meddle with some guys that screw it up.
There's a piece put out this week that said Mike Tomlin's the only one that wanted or that wants Aaron Rodgers. Well, that's not that can't be true.
Yeah,
because again, that triangle.
It's a consensus.
It's a consensus. If one of the guys says, "Yeah, we want to do this," now Tomlin's voice may hold more water in respect to what happens with the roster.
Maybe, right.
He may have a little more sway. He's in that position longer, but Art Rooney II still has to sign off on everything.
Yeah, 100%.
And if he doesn't want to do it, they're not going to do it.
They're not going to do it, right. I mean, it all gets talked through. And
I remember that I asked Art at his meeting with the media in 1999, or 2019, I should say, after the Minka Fitzpatrick trade.
Right, that's a very un-Steeler-like
It's
move.
a very un-Steeler-like move. And right. I asked him at that press conference, I'm like, hey, that decision, you guys hadn't traded a first-round draft pick for a player since the 60s.
I bet there was some lobbying.
And I said,
this is the time to
was
do
this
it,
was
right?
this a very difficult decision? He said, yeah, we talked about it. I spent I spent a lot of time thinking about it, pacing in the office before we actually made that move. The decision is his.
I think it took some convincing.
The decision is his because it's something they hadn't done.
Right. And it became close to a rule because they traded away from like Dick Butkus and Gale Sayre.
Right, and that's why they had traded. I mean, if you look at their drafts in the 60s.
Right. They were taking.
They didn't have first-round draft picks for a long time because they kept trading them for veteran players.
Right. You'd rather have Joe Green and Lynn Swann and Terry Bradshaw. Right.
Yeah.
And
it was Dan Rooney that came in and said, "We're not doing that anymore.
Right.
We can't work. We can't function in that fashion." And they didn't do it again until 2019.
And from what I've been told, I don't even know the players well enough, but the guys that they were trading first-round picks for weren't young,
28-year-old or 29-year-old at that time, which was
whatever. Yeah, right. You were getting damaged goods or older dudes, and that's not a good business model.
No, it isn't.
And you lost a lot of games.
There were some ebb and flow there. I mean, once if you got a completely veteran team, that can work.
Maybe it works for a year.
And Buddy Parker had some success, but it wasn't the kind of success that they had after.
It wasn't a sustained model.
No,
right.
Anyways, I just wanted to explain that and talk about that. But let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. That's going to do it for hour number 1. We'll be back with hour number 2 right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, except no imitations. And this is the start of hour number 2 of The Drive here. And do a little fantasy football focus. Right. And Matt, Mike Clay has broken down the fantasy season in terms of who has the easiest and who has the hardest opponents for the season.
Oh, okay.
Who you should upgrade and who you should downgrade based on who they play, where they play, when they play, all that stuff.
Okay. I think it's a valuable tool. I personally don't get too crazy with that when I start doing my ranks, but I definitely like to refer back to it,
So according to Clay, the team with the easiest fantasy schedule this year is the Arizona Cardinals.
Really? Okay. So I assume he's just looking at collective defenses and what they project out to and all those type of things.
So they get the 49ers twice, the Jaguars, the Cowboys, the Bengals, the Panthers, Saints, Falcons, and Titans.
There's a handful of good ones in there, right? No question.
I mean, there's going to be some
soft ones.
The only top 10 projected defense they will face this season is Houston.
Wow. Only one top 10.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they really only have a couple real fantasy relevant players to me.
But Kyler Murray, maybe if you're looking at him in that mid round, you're like, it's either Kyler Murray or
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Maybe you go Kyler Murray in that situation just because that breaks the tie. James Conner. Another example there that, okay.
I forget what list we were talking about earlier this week. I thought, man, Connor's always underrated this time of year. Like he's hitting this wall and hasn't yet.
This defensive schedule, slate of teams, I'm like,
that's pretty noteworthy.
Those are some of the worst rush defenses in the league last year.
Yeah. Kyler in particular, I might bump up 2 spots.
Yeah. Trey McBride's going to go high no matter what.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not ready to put him over Bowers, but I'm not going to. He's still sticking to 2 for me.
Yeah. And, we'll see what Marvin Harrison. I mean, they got some dudes there.
Yeah, they do.
But if you're looking at somebody and you have them rated close and you're like looking at it and like,
it's a great tiebreaker.
That's a great tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Other teams with favorable fantasy schedules. Well, again, there's some teams on here with not a lot of offensive firepower. The Carolina Panthers.
Well, there are going to be last place teams.
Right.
And there's a ripple effect you didn't have. Okay.
The Seahawks and the Saints.
Ooh, not the best teams you want to hear.
Right.
But I'm warming up to Kenneth Walker in a big way. I think the Saints offensive coordinator went to Seattle.
I think Chuba Hubbard's going to be a guy that's vastly underrated in fantasy drafts.
Yeah. Maybe Ted McMillan gets a little boost. I haven't been targeting him in the draft, but
would you target Young as a backup with some upside?
Thinking, like, is he or Darnold top 24 or better? Like, is he someone you're excited about?
I could see Young with kind of a breakout type season based on how he played when he came back last year.
I say it got a lot better in the end.
Yeah.
And guys like Coker are solid. I mean,
like if I'm deciding between Young and Cam Ward, I'm going to take Young.
I would probably take Young.
If I'm deciding between Young and, I don't know, Penix, I'm going to take Young.
Yeah. Probably still a low end backup though.
Yeah.
I mean,
but there's some upside there.
There is. Trying to think, does it change your tune on Olave? Kamara.
That's going to be a tough situation.
That's
for
the thing.
guys.
I would rather have Darnold or Young.
Yeah.
Or driving the ship than Shock.
Smith and Jigba.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I quite high on him anyway.
Yeah, he's going to get. I mean, he's the only game in town.
The only game in town. He's going to get a lot of targets.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I assume they're playing a lot of the same defenses as Arizona.
Yeah. Teams with the toughest fantasy schedules. The toughest one, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay. I mean, I just expect shootouts galore from them. But maybe it's going to be a little tougher sledding than you think.
They face one defense projected to finish in the bottom 10 of the league this year.
Wow.
That's the Jaguars.
One game.
They have 6 games against top 6 defenses.
Okay.
The Steelers twice, the Vikings, the Broncos, the Lions, and the Patriots. They also have to play the Ravens. They have to play the Ravens twice. That's 8 games where they're going to play pretty tough defenses.
Absolutely. I also worry. The thing that comes to mind with that one is the wear and tear on Burrow's body. I mean, he's had a hard time staying healthy. They might lead the league in pass attempts. Defense isn't going to help him at all. He's going to get hit a lot.
Going to get hit.
He's going to get hit a lot.
Yeah. Other teams that have difficult fantasy schedules. The Baltimore Ravens and the Green Bay Packers.
Now, I wouldn't change my tune on Lamar or Henry.
Right. They are who they are.
I actually think Andrews is a value at this point.
But is Flowers being overdrafted a little bit?
Maybe. Maybe you don't take a wide receiver 5 on Bateman or Likely or one of those guys. Or if you're torn between Lamar and Allen, you take Allen. I mean, a lot of people seem to think they're fighting for the number 1 spot. Green Bay is the one that comes to mind, though. It's like
it's already kind of murky as it is. Yeah,
thin. I mean, I like the players, but where's the ball going to go? I actually like both their tight ends, but Kraft's the better one. But if it's going to be a little tougher sledding, I remember saying a couple of days ago I thought Jacobs was too low on a list. Still probably think that compared to where he was on that list, but maybe I'm dropping Love a little.
Yeah.
Okay. These are good to know. I don't care about the 10th hardest schedule or
that
the 20th.
Yeah.
I care about the top 3 or 4.
Who's playing the most
Who are the real
difficult?
outliers?
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, the 2 that he mentioned, Cincy is the hardest, Arizona is the easiest. They only had one out of 17 that was top 10 or bottom 10.
That doesn't mean that like Jamar Chase isn't going to have some big games against some of those.
Of course.
But
he cost you a first-round pick.
Right. There might be some games where it's like, ooh, it wasn't quite as good as that. Wasn't what I expected. He hit 6 for 59.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I expect out of my first-round pick. Or a guy who's a top 5 overall pick.
Or maybe Bengals games are going to lean towards the under more than you think. Maybe it won't be 35-33. It'll be 28-27.
I can see teams playing keep away against them this year and let's just run the ball.
Just run the ball like crazy.
Yeah.
I think their defense might be the worst in the league.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard the Hendrickson news, but I guess they offered him $28 million per Florio. And he wasn't real thrilled with it because I think they haven't treated him well.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to work out.
28.
It's a little. I think we
that's
talked
a little
about
low.
it and thought it'd be 30.
That's lowballing him to a degree.
Yeah, it's actually like what TJ's making now.
Yeah.
And there's a tier there that he deserves a little more. It's well below Garrett and some of those others, which he's not going to get Garrett money. He's not going to get what Parsons gets. But I was shocked that they even
But Crosby's making 35.
Right. I thought 30 will be where he lands, maybe 31, 32, something like that.
He's probably looking at what Crosby's making and going,
Our sack numbers aren't very different.
We're pretty much the same guy. We're the only game in town on two bad defenses.
I bet their age isn't that much.
It's not that much difference.
Right.
And oh, by the way, I just led the league in sacks and was second last year or 2 years ago.
But I thought they've kind of mistreated him every step of the way. That maybe he's not as interested in hearing them or giving them the benefit of the doubt. You know?
Yeah, I mean that's the conundrum that you have with those things. Like that's why those kind of negotiations can be difficult.
Absolutely.
Like you don't want to come in with an offer that's too low. It's like we're negotiating for a house.
But
the house is $500,000, and my first bid on it is $350. The owners might just say, "I'm not selling it to this guy."
Right. I'm not interested in going down that.
We're not even going to bother.
Yeah, and makes you wonder though, why didn't the Bengals do this a month and a half ago? Their timing with contracts isn't really all that great.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be holding press conferences on the sidelines.
In terms of the positional upgrades and downgrades, now this is based on Clay's projections of where the defenses are going to be.
Okay.
The reason why Cincinnati is on the low end of that or has the most difficult schedule, in terms of the teams that they face in the quarterback, what they give up to the quarterback, it's 28th.
Okay.
The 28th most difficult.
It's difficult,
or fifth most difficult.
Okay,
as it were.
32 is the hardest.
32 is the hardest. 23rd against running backs, 16 against wide receivers, and 12th against tight ends.
Okay.
If you're looking at this from a Steelers standpoint, 22nd against quarterbacks.
Okay. So tough, but not brutal.
29th in terms of what the running backs get.
Wow. So playing really good run defense.
Playing good run defenses or teams that don't give up a lot of points to the running backs.
Yeah. Which includes catches and touchdowns and right.
14th against wide receivers and 5th against tight ends.
Wow. Okay.
So keep that in the back.
Yeah, just keep it in your mind. Right.
Keep that in mind. The team that faces the easiest slate for quarterbacks, the Houston Texans.
I could see a
number 1
for him.
Number 9 against running backs.
Wow.
18th for wide receivers, 12th for tight ends.
As long as their O-line's okay,
they
should be in.
They should be
real
okay.
Good shape, right?
Who has
like maybe you take Stroud over Love then, because Green Bay was one of those teams that were.
Now I know why the Ravens face a slate 29th against quarterbacks.
Okay.
31st against running backs.
Wow.
30th against wide receivers, and number 1 against tight ends.
So tight ends are the easiest.
Tight ends are the easiest, but everything else is awful.
I had just happened to mention that a lot of these tight end ranks have Andrews like 9, 10. I don't think he's going away that quick.
Yeah.
I think I'd have him closer to like 5. I didn't know that.
I'm looking here to see the Giants.
Everything about the Giants' schedule is awful.
Have the toughest slate of defenses for quarterbacks.
Do they really?
20th against running backs, 21st against wide receivers, 32nd against tight ends.
Wow. And other than the
brutal,
they have the hardest schedule in the league, period. Too.
Yeah. The Jets, on the other hand, 4th against quarterbacks, 10th against running backs, 3rd against wide receivers, 2nd against tight ends. I don't know why they weren't number 1.
Yeah, right. That's about as easy as it gets.
Yeah, because Arizona was 2, 4, 16, and 9. Maybe they're just looking at the weapons and saying this is a
couple Jets guy I'm interested in. Fields could be on my team.
Yeah, Wilson.
Brees Hall, right.
The Lions this year, 30th against quarterbacks.
Ouch.
26th for running backs, 24th for wide receivers, 3rd for tight ends. So maybe this is a Laporta bounce back year.
His last 6 weeks or so were a lot better, too. There were some injuries early on. He might be my tight end 3. I mean, Bowers is 1. McBride's 2. I'd probably still go Kittle, but I think Laporta could have a really strong season.
Looking at the rest of the division here, we haven't mentioned the Browns yet. 27th against quarterbacks. 19th.
Did you see Watson's planning on playing?
He was throwing and doing all that kind of, like, they may just say, you're going away.
Right.
That's not happening.
5 quarterbacks?
Yeah. 19th against running backs, 32nd against wide receivers. 8th.
I didn't think I'd own Judy anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't want anything to do with that. 8th for tight ends.
Okay.
So if you're going to get somebody, get Njoku.
Yeah, and they scheme him up pretty well, and he's good after the catch, and he'd be kind of a Shador or Gabriel-friendly guy.
Yeah. I'm just looking.
He's probably the only Brown I might own.
Looking for the other outlier. Who has the easiest?
I've been avoiding Judkins even in rookie drafts.
The easiest run defense schedule is owned by, the Falcons.
Wow.
Like seeing that. 20th for quarterbacks, number 1 for running backs, number 4 for wide receivers, 12th for tight ends.
I'd gladly have Bijan in London.
Yeah.
Especially Bijan. Are you done on Pitts? I don't think he's a top 12 guy on my list if I made one, but I might take a flyer in the 15th round.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a contract year.
Right.
You know.
And hearing that makes it a little more exciting.
Number 1, what else we got here? Receivers. The Rams.
Oh, wow.
They got a super easy schedule. 6 for the quarterback,
Okay.
7th for the running backs, 1 for the wide receivers, 30th for tight ends.
Which works out perfect for them.
Works out great.
Probably don't want Higbee or Ferguson anyways.
Yeah.
You know.
So
I'll gladly take Adams.
yeah, it's worth keeping note. Just keeping track of things like that. Now, certainly things will change during the season.
Of course.
But if you're breaking ties, for example, like looking at the Washington schedule or what they face this year, 24
against
quarterbacks, 28 for running backs, 11th for wide receivers, 29th for tight ends.
Okay. To your point that it'll change, the tight end one is the one I put the least credence.
Yeah.
Quarterback one I put the most in.
Yeah.
You know, some teams are good against running quarterbacks or just have better pass defenses. Tight end, maybe Kittle catches 2 touchdowns against you, and all of a sudden your tight end numbers get screwed up. You know,
it just blows everything out of the water.
I wouldn't get too crazy on that.
Yeah, I agree. But just interesting to take a look at. Some guys he is upgrading because of these schedule things. C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, that's
Kyler Murray, Tyler Shuck. They face a really easy defense, and Justin Fields at the quarterback position.
Okay.
At running back, Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, James Conner, Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
At wide receiver, it's Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams.
Sure.
Garrett Wilson and Tet McMillan.
I think we agree, though. I'm still not in Nacua in the top 8.
Yeah.
I like him a lot, but I'm not jumping him from end of the first round to middle of the first round.
Yeah.
But I'll take Adams, or maybe a round earlier.
Yeah.
London.
At tight ends, it is Mark Andrews and Mason Taylor.
I almost brought up Taylor, but I'm like, he's a second-round rookie tight end. He's more of a watch list guy probably for me. If he has a couple big weeks, pick him up.
The downgrades because of these.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff.
Goff makes a lot of sense. Wilson, I don't know how long he's going to keep his job anyway, especially with their schedule. Okay.
The running back downgrades.
I actually think Dak could have a decent year with Pickens.
He could, yeah. James Cook, Derrick Henry, R.J. Harvey, Caleb Johnson.
Okay. I guess Warren would have to correlate to that to some degree.
The wide receiver downgrades, Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman.
Judy's an avoid for me to begin with.
And then at tight end, it's Jake Ferguson, Theo Johnson.
It's a reach.
Tyler Higbee, and Zach Ertz.
None of whom I want.
I don't want to own any of those guys.
right. That doesn't.
Ferguson would be the closest one that I'd want to own, and
that would take some convincing too.
Yeah.
Theo Johnson.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. That'll do it for the Fantasy Football Focus. Matt and I'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear the show, starting next week. We're going to be at OTA sessions, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Monday's Memorial Day, too.
Yeah, Monday's Memorial Day. But we're gonna knock back from doing the 5-day-a-week thing until training camp starts back up. So we'll go 3 days a week.
I assume it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Friday more often.
Once we get through
minicamp
and all that stuff. No more video until training camp.
Right.
On YouTube, but you'll be able to check out the videos on YouTube once we get back to training camp. As I mentioned earlier in the show, you can also go back and look at the archive
Yeah,
It's a good number of shows on there.
Right, and a lot of views.
Yeah. Anyways, you can also download the Steelers mobile app and get the show. You don't
Probably
even
the
have
easiest
to.
way to do anything.
Yeah,
right?
then it just shows up.
Yep, boom.
Pro Football Focus, Matt, has put together the NFL's best players of the past 25 years. So
Wow.
basically of this.
I did not see that.
Yeah, of this millennium.
Okay.
I believe that's the right word.
Wonder how long PFF's been around.
That I don't know.
I don't think 25, but right.
Yeah. So they're going to go position by position here, look at their career, what their PFF grades are for their career.
Fair enough, right.
That's how they're going to do it here.
Is their website.
At quarterback, Tom Brady. The honorable mention is Peyton Manning.
Okay.
Are they the two best quarterbacks of the past 25 years?
I would take Mahomes over everybody I've ever seen. But Brady's resume is the best.
Yeah.
It just is. There's no doubt in my mind. But even when Brady, 5 years ago, before Mahomes was Mahomes, probably 8 years ago, I'm dating myself, I said I'd rather have Rodgers than Brady. There was a stretch there where I thought Rodgers was harder to play against than Brady was at any point of his career.
So they have Brady's career PFF grade at 98.6.
I think it's out of 100, right?
Out of 100.
Right.
He has
Not bad.
On 12,000 PFF graded dropbacks, he had a 2% turnover-worthy play rate.
Wow.
So 2 out of
Think about
every
that.
100 passes
Were turnover
worthy.
like a bad decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty good.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Now, times are a little different. The league changes abruptly. But his and Peyton's lack of mobility, I hold against them a little. Now, they made up for it. I mean, they were so good from the neck up. And Brady's a better passer than people think, too. Like, oh, he's kind of a weak arm guy. I mean, he's refined his mechanics so well, too. He gets every bit of velocity out of his body, too. Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with Brady. I mean, in reality, he is the best quarterback ever. But if we're picking up teams, I'm picking Mahomes.
At running back,
25 years.
25 years, Derrick Henry gets the nod.
Okay.
Derrick Henry, the best running back over the last 25 years.
Is like Tomlinson in that group? I'm trying to think how far back 25 years is.
It's 25 years.
I know. Tomlinson's been in the last 25 years, but like, I'm trying to who's the cutoffs of Falk, Tomlinson, McCaffrey didn't do it as long as Henry, but they're about the same age and did it differently. I don't know. I don't think Henry would be my pick.
Their honorable mention guys, Marshawn Lynch.
These are a lot of runners, though.
Yeah, those are two runners.
Right.
Like, there was a pretty good stretch here where Le'Veon Bell was the best running back in the league,
no question. If this is a cumulative grade, it's going to hurt Bell.
Yeah.
But peak grade, it was probably as good as any. That's the thing, is it's kind of like those quarterbacks are passers.
Right.
Those running backs are runners.
Right.
I want more from my position than that. I mean, for the best in 25 years, we're not talking,
Yeah. At wide receiver, they go with 3 guys actually, and 1 honorable mention.
Antonio Brown should be one of them.
Antonio Brown is one of them. He had a 94.9 career PFF grade.
Okay. I would bet Julio's another.
Julio Jones is on there, 94.8 career PFF grade.
Pretty crazy.
And Tyreek Hill is the third, 93.8. Honorable mention, Calvin Johnson.
Okay. I'm not good with my timeline of how far to go back. I guess that's definitely within the last 25 years. What am I thinking? I mean, it's in the 2000s. Larry didn't make it.
Didn't make it.
Those 4 all are above Larry to me. Tyreek's another one that even like last offseason, I thought on the all-time receiver list, he doesn't get listed enough amongst the top 5 or 6. I mean, he keeps defensive coordinators up at night to no end.
So here's the weird thing about this. I'm looking here in the Tyreek thing.
Mm-hmm.
He broke Julio Jones' PFF record for receiving grade in a season by delivering a 93.8 mark. Well, here's the thing. Julio Jones is a 94.8 career PFF grade, and Antonio Brown's at 94.9. So how was that the...
Maybe do they add a little for blocking or ball carrying? Or I never understand the math of their grades, to be honest with you.
For example, so here's what they said. Brown is the highest graded receiver, wide receiver in the PFF era, doing so as the ultimate target earner across his 12 NFL seasons, with the highest career target rate, 27.1% of the 181 qualifying wide receivers since 2006. So that's when they apparently started.
Okay, yeah.
In 2015, Brown was the first player in PFF era to see more than 200 targets in a season, playoffs included.
200.
He delivered 1,953 yards in the highest PFF receiving grade in the season. At the time, it was 92.6. Brown ranks in the top 5 at his position since 2006 in career yards per route run at 2.45, yards after the catch, 4,903 yards after the catch, and overall receiving yards, 13,209.
You said he had a career route run or yards per route run of 2.5?
2.45.
Wow, for the career. Over 2 is good.
Yeah.
Over 2 is real good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that includes his rookie year.
Right,
that
rookie
includes
year,
his
last year. That's
last
Raiders,
couple years.
That's
Yeah.
Tampa. Right. Wow.
Pretty significant.
Pretty significant.
At tight end,
It's got to be Gronk or Kelsey.
it's Rob Gronkowski. The honorable mention, however, is George Kittle.
They must factor in blocking a fair amount, which I don't have any qualms with.
Left tackle,
Trent Williams?
he's the honorable mention.
I don't think it's Tyron Smith.
Joe Thomas.
Oh, good one. Okay.
The left guard, Logan Mankins.
Okay.
The honorable mention is Evan Mathis.
He had a really good career.
Center,
I'm going to go with Kelsey.
they're going Nick Mangold.
I love Nick Mangold.
Kelsey is the honorable mention.
Okay.
Remember, they hate Pouncey.
Oh, I knew Pouncey wasn't going to make it.
Yeah. Right guard,
Drawing a blank.
Marshall Yonda.
I think he should go to the Hall of Fame.
The honorable mention is Zach Martin.
Okay. Strong. I'm going to go with Lane Johnson at right tackle.
Lane Johnson is the right tackle. The honorable mention is Mitchell Schwartz.
I wouldn't have come up with that, but it makes sense. Quality, long career. It sounds like longevity definitely matters.
Yeah.
You know, it's a cumulative lifetime type grade.
Interior defensive players.
Donald might be their number 1 player of anyone listed.
He's the highest graded defensive player in the PFF era.
I bet.
Yeah, Aaron Donald.
And I think J.J. Watt's like right behind him. I don't know if they call him interior end or what they're going to call him.
They call him an interior defender as well. Their honorable mention, and they only pick one, is Chris Jones.
I'd say, is it Jones?
Here's the thing about Chris Jones, and this was something that they had a thing earlier this week, and I read it. We haven't gone over it, but the top players over 30 right now, and they listed Jones as second or whatever.
Okay, early 30s, I imagine.
Yeah, he's like 32. Cam Hayward's on the list, and he's like 6th or 7th on the list. And they said that Hayward was the only guy to rank in the top 5 in pass defense or pass rush and run defense
This past season.
Pretty much any season.
Yeah.
That's like Chris Jones is a very good pass rusher.
No doubt.
Cam Hayward runs circles around him as a run defender.
He does. I would weight pass rush more.
I get it.
And it's harder to find, but your point
But they're
is
very
wrong.
close in the pass rush area.
I bet. Yeah.
They're both a handful.
They're both a handful. Jones is better and more diverse.
But
he'll line up outside the tackles and do goofy.
But if we're measuring Hayward's run defense against Jones' run defense,
it's a big gap.
It's not particularly close.
No,
he doesn't give a whole lot of effort in that.
No, and can be a little more situational than Cam too. Yeah, they also play with more leads. I always talk about TJ too.
That helps. Edge defenders.
I'm gonna go Garrett and Watt.
They went Von Miller and Garrett.
Okay.
The honorable mention is Khalil Mack. Watt doesn't make it at all.
Those guys are all really good.
They're all really good.
Yeah, right.
I get it.
I mean, Von Miller in the height of his powers was incredible, as was Mack. And Max done it a long time and still putting up good numbers.
Miller has 139 sacks in 13 seasons.
Okay.
Watt has played, 8?
And he's over 100, right?
He's he's got 104. He's gonna blow past Von Miller.
Is Watt the best sacks per year guy in NFL history?
Yes.
I thought so, yeah. I knew he's better than Garrett.
He's
Lawrence.
sacks per game, I should say.
Okay, that's a better way of looking at it. Sacks per year. I'd rather break it down to the lowest common denominator.
He is the highest sacks per game in NFL
history,
yeah.
period. Okay. It says a lot. Yeah.
And he's also was the best graded edge rush or edge defender against the run last year.
They set PFF records last
Yes.
year for his run defense last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand how.
I have no problem with any of those three,
but
right.
Yeah, those three are great players.
They're great.
They're great players.
But he's every bit on par with them.
Yeah. That would be a tough one.
That'd be a tough one.
Linebacker, off-ball linebackers.
Was Ray Lewis in that era?
Ray Lewis is in that era.
I know Kuechly broke their charts one time.
He's an honorable mention.
As a pass defender.
Yeah. Patrick Willis.
I was going to say Warner has to be close to.
And Willis Bobby Wagner, the other.
Okay. So what they do? Take two and then
Willis and Lewis are the guys, and Bobby Wagner and Luke Kuechly are the honorable mentions. If you can name two honorable mentions there, why couldn't you name an honorable mention?
Why did we get one more edge and one more D tackle too?
Right.
It was only 3 of them, but there's 4 of those guys. Okay.
Cornerback.
Champ Bailey, Revis. I'm gonna go with Revis.
Champ Bailey is a honorable mention. Revis is one of the 3 that they mentioned. The other 2 are Richard Sherman and Antoine Winfield.
Okay.
I don't think of Antoine Winfield or Richard Sherman.
We're talking about Antoine Winfield Sr.
Yeah.
Right. Daddy.
Champ Bailey's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I bet we can come up with more names.
I don't know that Sherman or Winfield are.
Winfield won't be.
Sherman will be
might. He's got a shot.
Yeah.
Revis, to me, stands alone of those guys.
Yeah. Safety. This should be easy.
I mean, Troy and Reed, they're not too old, right?
Troy and Reed, that was right in their wheelhouse.
Yeah. I'd say Lewis made it, so they're going to both be in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's got to be the top 2, right?
Polamalu finished with a 93.0 career PFF grade.
Wow.
Ed Reed was 92.3. So now we know who's better, right?
Imagine those two just playing together as opposed to have to fight who's better.
Had that conversation many, many times.
I know.
Get to see those two together on the same field.
They're remarkable.
A lot.
Yeah.
The honorable mention? Another Raven.
Hamilton?
No. Eric Weddle.
I don't think of him as a Raven. I might have got if you said Charger, but I mean, he bounced around a little at the end. But good career. Not Troy and Ed.
No,
I mean, a good player, but
those two were
right. Wow, they might be the best 2 safeties ever. I mean,
Dawkins didn't make it.
Yeah, there's some safeties lately that have gotten in the Hall of Fame. That's Lynch and Dawkins and Atwater and some of those guys.
Atwater was
older than those guys, but right. Some safeties I didn't think were super deserving of Hall of Fame have made it lately.
Yeah. The kicker.
Tucker.
No.
Is it your boy, Vinatieri?
No. Matt Prater.
Oh, I wouldn't have come up with that in 100 years.
He's one of 3 kickers in the PFF era with at least 80 field goal attempts of less than 30 yards who never missed a kick in that range. He's the only kicker to fit to have at least 90% accuracy from 30 to 39 yards and 75% accuracy from 40 yards and out. Although Boswell's going to be getting pretty damn close to that.
He can't be too far.
He's over 80% in his career over 50 yards. 80% from 50 yards.
These last couple of years must have destroyed Tucker's case.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not Vinatieri, though.
The punter.
No chance.
He's a very popular guy.
The talk show host?
Pat McAfee, yes.
I didn't know if he was even good. I figured he wasn't terrible. He lasted in the league for a while.
I'm surprised it's him, though, because
I was thinking Leckler was going to be my pick. Right.
Excellent.
Lasted a long time.
The Titans had the guy that was
I believe you.
Can't think of his name now, but he was really good.
Okay.
The Ravens guy for years was
yeah, he was.
I can't think of it. They're all punters. I can't think of their name.
I really show my weakness with kickers and punters, especially punters.
Yeah, but there's been some
Cook, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Coch, right?
Yeah.
Didn't want to mispronounce that one.
But he was. I mean, he was a really solid punter.
Yeah, he lasted a really long time. They
Yeah.
had great special teams for a very long time. Right?
Yeah, but McAfee's the guy that they picked.
Okay. I didn't know if he was one of the best or not.
He's the highest graded punter in the PFF era. I don't even know how they grade punters.
I don't either.
By a significant margin.
I don't know how they grade kickers. I mean, does it go through the uprights or not?
We talked about that last year.
Right. Weird.
Yeah. The next closest player being A.J. Cole, who was another good punter.
He was a good one, yeah. That's not a bad name.
The 6-point gap between them is the largest of any position on this list.
So McAfee's the best at any position.
Well, here's the thing, though. McAfee's 4.5
also punted at
his
dome.
4.454 average hang time on 611 qualifying punts, top 5 mark all time. You're kicking indoors.
I'm kicking indoors. That sure helps.
A lot easier to do.
In Tennessee, in Houston, in Jacksonville. No question. Kickers and punters, weather matters.
Yeah, all things are not equal.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, even like Ben versus Breeze isn't the same.
Right.
But it's really different when you talk about kickers and punters.
Yeah, absolutely. But interesting list.
No long snappers?
No long snappers. No special team players.
Okay. I thought they might have a special team.
No fullbacks.
No fullbacks, okay.
What else are we missing?
True nose.
True nose tackles.
Right, that's a different world.
You know,
than
the
Watt.
league. One of the things they did, and we talked about this at the owners' meetings when we were down in Palm Beach. They actually have come up now. They are going to officially have an offensive lineman award.
Yeah. I talked about it on a different podcast. Right.
They could come up with. First of all, I'd like to see them split the offensive line award because it's going to be a left tackle every year.
I thought about that too.
Like. Okay, just name it the best offensive tackle. I could see
Panay.
I could see Panay Sewell winning it or something like that. But
it's going to be a tackle.
It's going to be a tackle.
I thought maybe Kelsey would have won it a year or two ago. Maybe Quentin Nelson would have won it 5 years ago. Or
it's still very difficult because the tackles get all the.
We had this exact same conversation. Yeah. Like you'd have to be Faneca, Hutchinson, Larry Allen, Dirk Dawson. Clearly the best. Right. Because it's going to go to Trent Williams.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'd like to see that one split into two. Your edge, your tackles and interior guys.
Just like
two different
the fifth-year option.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're not the same.
All offensive linemen are not the same. I'd also, if you're going to do something like that, I would like to see something for interior defensive linemen. Those guys never get any acclaim.
Yeah.
You very rarely see them mentioned as a defensive player of the year type guy.
But PFF should have done that. Like, give me a nose.
Give me a nose.
You know,
a guy that's in
big time run stuffing grade that has 2 sacks a year. You know?
It just isn't going to get the accolades. He's not going to. Casey Hampton made like 2 Pro Bowls his entire career. He was outstanding,
and he did exactly his job and more. You know, every time.
Yeah, but there's.
It's a pretty thankless job.
It's a thankless job, and there's no awards for those guys.
No.
If you are on the interior of the defensive or offensive lines, there are no accolades for you.
There's no accolades because you're not going to go to all pros.
It's one of the problems that when I was presenting Alan Faneca for the Hall of Fame stuff that year.
Right.
Like there's no stats to go on.
I know.
There are no awards to go other than Pro Bowls and All Pros.
Right. Like Hampton has no chance. I think Will Fork will go.
I don't know.
But it's gonna be a tough case.
I don't know if he does.
Cortez Kennedy went, but he
had a bunch of
sacks.
Rush. Yeah.
Bryant Young went, but they had more.
Bryant Young
rush.
had 80 sacks in his career.
Yeah, they weren't just noses.
Yeah,
they were really, really good run stuffers, but they were more well-rounded.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's real tough.
Anyways, that's going to do it for this segment. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. That was the PFF NFL's best players of the past 25 years. A couple of Steelers on there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should have been at least maybe one more.
TJ would have been nice.
At least an honorable mention.
Right.
Come on, man.
Couldn't put 4 edges on there?
Yeah. I mean, all those guys are probably going to the Hall of Fame, but so is he.
Yeah, so is he. Right. Troy made it. AB made it.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Is there anyone else we missed?
That was it.
Okay.
That was it.
Boswell still could make a name for himself.
He can make that push.
Mm-hmm.
He could definitely do that. But let's get to the break. We'll be back to finish up the show right after this. We are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, the next time we get together,
Tuesday.
Will be Tuesday for OTAs. We'll actually get to see some on-the-field football work. And
3-hour show, though.
3-hour show, 10 to 1, each of those days.
All 3 days in a row.
I just want to pull back the curtains on this a little bit. We are not allowed to talk about what's going on the football field. Now, it may give us some ideas of things we want to talk about.
Sure, and we can future shows, things we've seen.
Once we get the training camp and things of that nature, we can talk about it all. But we'll also get some player interviews at the OTA sessions. We usually
works out. We get one per day. Once in a while, it gets hairy, but usually they pull them right off practice field, sit down with us, and we Patrick Peterson. That was a really memorable one.
Yeah,
he was really well spoken.
We had Cole Holcomb.
Yeah,
his
a
first
lot of times
year,
it's a new guy.
Yeah, we will be joined for those sessions by Wes Euler.
Yep.
Tom Offerman will be sitting in on Wednesday for Wes.
Okay.
But there'll be a 3-man show, so we'll get to have a little fun with Wes, who, quite frankly, is pretty loud.
He's pretty loud. Yeah, they'll hear him all the way across the field.
He'll be,
absolutely.
He's
better outdoors. We'll be outdoors. We'll be right.
It'll
It'll
kill the noise a little bit. It'll bring the energy level of him down.
Oh yeah, we'll pull in a substitute teacher for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have some fun. Maybe, as we mentioned when we had Bob Labriola on the other day, maybe we'll have Bob sit down with us. Maybe
we might be able to grab a
guest or two as they're milling about, pretending to watch practice.
Lab sounded like he was semi-interested for his regular Wednesday hit. Maybe join us,
Yeah.
But it'll be a good time. It'll be good to be outside. I remember the one year we were freezing. And my buddy Ox was still next door from Pitt. I'm like, do you have a sweatshirt or something?
I still have the sweatshirt. I wear it all the time.
Right. I was right next to this one I grabbed. I'm like, should I grab that one or that one? And just happened to grab
Might be the only Pitt sweatshirt I own.
Yeah, I have a ton.
I might have another one.
Yeah. But
that's the only one I wear all the time. It fit me well.
It was perfect. Right. He took care of us and said, keep it.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Right. But it's nice down there. I'm excited to see. We are allowed to say, like I mentioned, body types. I'm going to say things like that.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be like,
we can't describe describe what's going on in the field. So if you're looking for that, we can't give you that, but we can give you the player interviews. We can talk about kind of what we're seeing there, and it's the only place in the world where you can get this information.
Place, right. Like I think we're allowed, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll even ask. Like practice is over. Boy, Howard threw the ball well today. I think you're allowed to do those type of things, right? I think
we just can't describe what he did,
right,
or anything like that. But
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we can still talk about who we're impressed with and those kind of things. And
I remember the one time was unfortunate, but there was an injury right in front of us.
And when I say right in front of us, like within 10 yards of us.
Right, like it happened on the sideline we were from, and it's like you had to kind of react to some degree, but it couldn't really say what we wanted to say,
Yeah. Unfortunately, I did react a little bit more. I mean, I was like, "Oh, that didn't look good at all."
Didn't look great, right?
And then we talked about said injury, and
it wasn't good.
We got yelled at, but
felt shame.
We felt shame. We went to the penalty box,
but no, I can't wait.
2 minutes later, we come out. Everything was fine.
Yeah, all good.
All good.
So the following week are we back to in here?
The next 2 weeks are the OTA sessions.
2 weeks, okay.
And then the third week is the mandatory minicamp.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the next 3 weeks will all be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought so. I wasn't 100% sure.
So if you're looking for the show, that's what's going on here. And then again, we will be going to a 3-day-a-week schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
until late July,
basically until training camp starts, and we have some vacation.
Yeah.
The two of us that we're going to take. In July. I think everything's in July, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a day here and there. I'm taking my son to college, and that is early July, and a couple things, but only one extended, but that's right before camp for me. Yeah,
so we'll make it work.
We'll be around a lot.
We'll still be around. We'll still be giving you all your good Steeler information and talking about stuff that's going on and stuff around the league. That's what we do. But that's going to do it for today's show. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the Justin Miller hotline and the soundboard, and for Tyler Vittmeyer, our last day here with Tyler Vittmeyer for the next about 2 months. When he comes back,
blast, dude.
He's going to have a much different look to him.
Yeah, he's a little less sleep.
He's going to look a lot more sleepy. But his wife will soon be having their first child. We congratulate them on that.
Congrats in advance, yeah.
But that's going to do it for the show today. I'm Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.